Thank you everybody for coming tonight. Thank you very much, Perry and Jonathan, for opening your home. On behalf of the Women's Bet Midrash, I'd like to thank Danja for sharing with us tonight the story of your parents. And I'd like to just mention that this is a very busy week for Am Yisrael and for the Women's Bet Midrash as well. We have 2 events this week. A new course which is starting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock in the Geffen Shul, which I'm co-teaching with Rabbi Leo D. Rabbi Leo D will be teaching tomorrow, Cultivating Hope in Challenging Times. It's a combination of faith and issues of emunah and historical questions. I'm putting it together as a package, and I hope that people will gain something from that. And on Wednesday, Likrat Yom HaZikaron, we have a tour to Har Herzl with Shuli Mishkin, when there's still a few places left. Meeting at 9:15 at the meeting at
the Herzl Museum entrance. We're not going into the museum, but that's the focal point where we will meet. Otherwise, there's too many spots to meet. 9:15.
At 9:15 at the Herzl Museum. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's not surprising that this is such a packed week. I think I always say the same thing for Yom HaShoah, that the date of Yom HaShoah v'Hagvura, everybody thinks that, this is it's connected with the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, but that's not the date that the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising began. That was Leila Pesach, Leila Saidel. It's a date that should be added to when we say Vayihi b'chatzi halayla. That's another one that should be added to the list. And it wasn't the end of Mered Ghetto Varsha either, because it lasted for months and lasted longer than the Polish army held out against the Germans. And so a week after the end of Pesach is nowhere near the end of the end of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. So what is Kafchet Iyar? So it turns out, Kafzayin Nisan. What is it? Where did that date come from? So it turns out that this was just the soonest date after Pesach, that the kibbutz movement could get it together to have a Yom Zikaron after Pesach, the first date after Pesach, that it could be organized and made to happen in the first year that they held it, not 1 year but 2 years after the end of World War II. But almost coincidentally, and I don't believe it's coincidence, this date is not just a few days after Pesach. This date is also 7 days before Yom HaAtzmaut. And of course they didn't know that then, because there was no Yom HaAtzmaut then. But it means that it's as if Am Yisrael on yesterday's, right, the Hebrew date's date, sits down for 7 days and sits shiva for 7 days for Am Yisrael, and then gets up from that shiva on Hei Iyar to celebrate the rebirth of a Jewish state. And it's an incredibly powerful non-coincidence. And I think that this year, more than any year, when bereavement and shiva is something that we've all experienced so strongly, so many times, that it's touched us in so many places this year, this concept of 7 days from the depth of despair, from the ashes, to the tkuma, to the unbelievable happening, is something that speaks to us in a way that it never has before. And Danja, I'm very happy to hear your parents' story. You said emunah was their strength, and if anything is our strength this year, emunah is our strength.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hosting. I'm really, really very nervous and very shy, but I'm doing this for my grandparents. So I hope they have nachat from their grandchildren, great-grandchildren. My name is Danja, and I'm originally from Amsterdam, from Holland. And I was born to family, from my father's side it's called Keesing, and from my mother's side, Moshkovitz. And even though I said I would speak about Moshkovitz, I just want to, very in short, tell also about the other side, also because I said to Ayelet, I don't have so much to tell. It's going to be only 20 minutes, and I feel bad if you came out for nothing. So I hope to be done by 12 o'clock, Bezrat Hashem. Don't worry. From my father's side, both my parents were born straight after the war. My father was born in 48, and my mother was born in 49, both youngest in the family. From my father's side, I've been in Holland already at least since the 16th century. And my great-grandfather, now I need to know words in English that I might not know.
Wat is het in het Hollands? In Hollands.
Erected a הוצאה לאור, publishing, publisher something, and he was my great grandfather, and then my grandfather Leo, he was the second generation, and then when the Shoah, when the war started, they, benigud to many others, said, wow, this is not going very well, we have to leave, and they decided to flee. And my grandfather gave the keys to somebody who was working for him, Mr. Diesveld, and he said, here are the keys. I have no idea if or when I'm going to come back, but you do whatever you have to do. Not only that they did what they had to do, but they also hid my great-grandparents in their house till the end of the war. My grandmother and grandfather, Leo and Mimi, fled first to Cuba, and then they lived in New York for a few years, and both my aunt and uncle, who live now in Beit Vegan, were born in, my uncle was born in Cuba, and my aunt was born in New York. They both live in Beit Vegan. And then after the war, when they came back to Amsterdam, my grandfather knocked on the door by family Diesveld, and he says, hi, I'm back. And then Mr. Diesveld said, here you go, here are the keys. And it's, I don't have to explain to you, I see that you understand already. זה לא מובן מאליו, it's not so, how do you say מובן מאליו? מובן מאליו. Because if already people would come back, then it would very often happen that, they would say, my house, my store, whatever, and then people say, I don't know who you are, this has been mine for centuries. And my father, Zichrono Livracha, he worked very, very hard to get them also acknowledged in Yad Vashem, and there's a tree on their name, etc. Thank you very much. She's my translator. So that is in very, very, very short about my father's side, and my father was born he was born in 48. And for my mother's side, she's also the youngest. She was born in 49, like I told you. And her parents came in, and about them I wanted to speak tonight. My grandfather, Ben Zion Moshkovitz, he was originally from Romania, and he grew up there, and he went to yeshiva in Pressburg, and they were Vishnitz Hasidim. And when he learned in Pressburg, it was then, there wasn't food in the yeshiva, so the boys would eat out by families, and he was sent to a family where my grandmother lived, and her name was Frida, and they got engaged, they got married, and they had 2 children, Uriel, who passed away a few years ago, and Naomi, who lives in Netanya. And in 35, my grandfather was not only a silversmith, but he was also chazan. And he was so good that he was asked to join the opera, but of course because of Shabbat and performing and lo tzanua, blah blah blah, he said no thank you, but he had a beautiful voice, a very gifted chazan. And in 35 they decided that they want to go out of Eastern Europe. And my grandfather Ben Zion, he had 2 job offers, one in Manchester, England, and one in Amsterdam. So he went to the Rebbe to ask where to go, and the Rebbe said that he should go overseas to Manchester. I don't know why my grandfather didn't listen, but afterwards, after the war, he always said I should have listened. And he went to Amsterdam, and there was really like a whole, Kochav Nolad, Star is Born. They were tested over Shabbos, and they had to do all kinds of performances. And he was chosen to be the Chazan of a specific synagogue. So my grandmother, with two very small kids, Uriel and Naomi, joined him in Amsterdam, and they have been living in Amsterdam since 1935. Then slowly but surely, all the rules came, and the war broke out. And my grandfather Ben Zion, he was already taken in 41 or 42, I'm not sure. And every Dutch Jew was taken to Westerbork. Westerbork was a camp where every Tuesday there were transports from there to different camps. Every Tuesday they would renew the schora, as you say, and he was taken to Westerbork, but he was 3 months in Westerbork. Why? Because there was a doctor there, and the doctor said to the Nazis, no, he's a nurse, I need him, he's going to help me. So my grandfather was 3 months in Westerbork instead of only 1 week at the most. But not only that, and it's a crazy, crazy story, at a certain point he was allowed to go back home for a weekend on vacation. After the war, Naomi, my aunt, is also a silversmith, and she worked with him in a store. They had a store in the center of Amsterdam, and she asked him, how come you went back? Like, why didn't you hide? Why didn't you flee? So he said, how can I? Because I know that if I wouldn't have come back, they would have rounded up I don't know how many others instead of me. It wouldn't even enter his mind not to have gone back to Westerbork. Not only that, I think I didn't read too much about it, but I read some about it, and I read that it's something very unique for the Dutch Jews, that many God-fearing Jews, before they were taken, they gave a get al t'nai to their wives, that if chas v'chalila something would happen to them, that their wives wouldn't be agunot. So the get was al t'nai. If they don't come back, if they're not found, or nobody has heard of them anymore, then their wives wouldn't be an aguna. And I don't know if it's true, but it's what I read, that the ones who did that, the ones who gave a get, that was like the shamar alehem, it safeguarded them, because all those came back after the Shoah. It sounds very good. I hope it's true. That's what I read. Ani lo yodat. So my grandmother was left with two small kids, Uriel and Chaya. Sorry, Uriel and Naomi. So now I'm going to go to my grandfather's side, and afterwards I'll tell you about my grandmother. So my grandfather was taken to Westerbork, and after 3 months he was taken to Buchenwald. And in Buchenwald, I gave out a few, 2-3 piles of papers, and actually I want to go through that. This was my grandfather, Ben Zion. And what I have here is a photocopy of a booklet. This is the back of the booklet. I didn't copy everything for you, of a booklet that he kept with him the whole time. Now, it sounds very easy, you have it in your pocket or whatever. It wasn't so easy, and if they would have found it on him, etc., I don't have to explain it to you, but it was something very, 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 very important to him. And after the war, when he came back to Amsterdam, he had a booklet with all kinds of things that he saved. There is a Holocaust museum, a Haredi Holocaust museum in Bnei Brak, and Uriel, my uncle, when he was still alive, he brought it there because they wanted to see it, and they wanted to photocopy it, blah, 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 blah. To make a very long story short, it's still there. We're not getting it back. They're keeping it by them, even though it's ours. But what we have is copies, and the booklet was printed for the grandchildren, for the great-grandchildren. So this was his personal number. His name was Moshkovitz. And then what you see, I think it's on the first page, you see here a lot of numbers. My grandfather,
Just hold up, wait.
Numbers.
Numbers,
Okay.
a lot of numbers. Numbers.
Yeah. Okay.
My grandfather was a capo, and I don't know if you heard about the capo, but the capo were one of the worst people, sometimes even worse than the Nazis in the war. But my grandfather was called the Angel of Buchenwald. He was responsible for a lot of rebbes, rabbanim, and people who were learning Torah, and it was his responsibility that all those men would come to a certain, you say, quota of work per day, but those were all Anshe Torah, and they really weren't used to, and I'm not even talking, even if you're in a good, how do you say, physical condition, then still it was mamash avodat parech, and they could not, how do you say, get to the quota. Thank you very much, per day. And my grandfather, Bishvil Kavod Torah, would try to do the work that they were supposed to do. But of course he never got to what he was supposed to get, and he was beaten horribly, in such a manner that another uncle of mine, Moshe, was also born after the war, remembers that once he was 8 and his tonsils were taken out, and afterwards when they went home from the hospital, my grandfather, they took a taxi home, and then my grandfather asked the taxi driver if he can lift Moshe up to the house, because my grandfather, because of all the makas, of all the, how do you say, the makot that he received, beatings that he received, he couldn't pick him up. And it was actually for Moshe the first time that he realized that something was different. Why am I saying that? Because my mother also says that at home they spoke about the war, and they shared their stories, but it wasn't too little and it wasn't too much. It was something in the middle, and both Moshe and my mother, who were born after the war, feel that they didn't have any trauma from, what their parents went through. Benigud,
As opposed to,
you're doing a good job.
Thank
You're doing
you.
a good job. As opposed to, my parents say that half of their class, their 48, 49, was in a closed, institution, because their parents who came back, and also the teachers, they had gone through so much horror that I don't know how to say it. They weren't normal anymore, and so the upbringing that these children were receiving was abnormal, and my mother says it's unbelievable how normal she was raised, and really the only thing her parents spoke about the Shoah, but I don't know, somewhere in the middle way. The only thing that mamash really was very, very difficult for her, that sometimes her parents in the night would wake up screaming from nightmares. She says the only thing that she feels that was difficult in their house. Anyhow, so this is the numbers of all the people he was responsible for. The first one is, if I'm not mistaken, is his number. Yeah, this one is his number. And Uriel, which I told you about, he was also Yaloman, and he worked in the Bursa in Ramat Gan. And when they heard Moshkovitz, so many people said, "Oh, are you family of Ben Zion Moshkovitz?" And then they would say about the angel of Buchenwald, and that was about him. I'm going to the. I've skipped a few, and I have here this text. It's on. Are you allowed to say that? Unfreaking believable what is happening here. This is a letter from my grandmother, who was with 3 kids. Chaya was born later. I'll tell you about Chaya later. In 1944, and she sends a letter that was allowed from Ravensbrück, the camp that she was in, to my grandfather. And it says, "Liebsten Papa, dear father." They spoke in German to each other. Wir sind Gott alle gesund. We're all healthy. They were in the camps, right? But they couldn't write anything. And also the children, we are outside the whole day in the fresh air and in the sun.
Oh my God.
And the little one, that's Chaya, is starting already to speak a little bit. The big ones are really becoming very tall, and they're very tanned from the sun. How are you? How's your health? Hopefully good. I wrote to my father to Amsterdam. Lots of kisses, also from the children. Your Frida. So in 1944, and I don't have to tell you what was going on. Like there's nothing more fake than this, but this is the only thing they're allowed to do. And this is a letter that he received. I'm continuing. Oh, it's so nice to see my grandmother's handwriting. My grandmother passed away 20 years ago. My grandfather, I never knew him. Let's continue. What do you have maybe? Then I know what to... Oh yeah, so he was, like I told you, he was also Chazan. And he was it was very important for him to remember all the tefillot. So he really did everything possible to find pen and paper, and I'll tell you afterwards how he managed to find pen and paper. So there's a lot of Yiddish songs that he wrote down so he wouldn't forget the text. But I also want to show you, I copied that, or Meish, my husband copied that because I don't know how to do these things. Does it start with Sason Leirecha?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we see here the tefillah from Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah?
I think both.
Both, thank you. No name. That he wrote down so that he wouldn't forget it. And there's a lot of tefillot here. I don't know what your next
The next
page is.
Next page is that one. This one. No, this one.
Baruch atah Hashem melech al kol haaretz. It continues the. Yes, and we have here also Kol Nidre. I don't think I copied that for you. I can't imagine that he would forget that, but it was very important for him to write it all down. And he was also the Nazis. Like when you came into a concentration camp, they would ask you, "What is your profession? What do you do?" And he said that he was a tzoref. He was a silversmith. So many Nazis wanted him to engrave jewelry or how do you say cigarette lighters for them, and that's why he had pen and paper. And you see here designs that he made. I don't know if I copied that. Initials, yeah. Okay. And one of the things that he also did was he stole a silver spoon, and I'm going to let it go by you soon, Bezrat Hashem. He stole a silver spoon. And what we see here in the middle is the tzura, the shape of Luchot HaBrit. And you see his name, Ben Zion, then Frida, Uriel, Naomi, Chaya, his personal number. And then it says on the side, Westerbork, Buchenwald, and Theresienstadt, the camps that he was in. And then he took this home after the war. And then every Lela Saidel, I mean, he wore it every day, but every Lela Saidel, he had it by, like on the table, he says, I know, Mazeh, Latzet, from Avdut, Lechirut, from slavery to freedom. And all the children, all the grandchildren, all the great-grandchildren, we received a copy. And today, זה היה ממש מרגש. There was, I think, the first time it happened. Everybody that has the ring, and everybody wears it also, send a picture of their hand with the ring, and it was children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Yeah, my personal assistant is gonna swipe for you.
Wow. It's quite amazing. Wow. All your cousins and uncles.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, זה ממש.
How many pictures?
I don't know, I don't remember. Oh, sorry, the chinchillas.
20 pictures here. 20 pictures.
There is more, but those send a picture. I'm doing pretty okay for till 12 o'clock.
And a breastplate for a Torah?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Men, women, everybody gets a ring.
Yeah, everybody, and also the men, by the way, even though they're very frum, they also wear it because this is not a ring. This is a ring. I don't wear it every day, but my daughters do wear it every day. I feel that I'm not worthy to wear it every day. So I'm a tour guide, and when I'm guiding Yad Vashem, then I have it, and it's in my silver cupboard, but others do wear it every day. 2 or 3 things I wanted to say, and then I'll talk about my grandmother, Bezrat Hashem. He had tremendous emunah, and both my grandparents say that this is what, how do you say, kept them alive through the war, through the Holocaust. At a certain point, they had to do the March of Death March, from Buchenwald to Theresienstadt, and that's 250 kilometers. And they were already, it was the end of the war, and they were like, they had no food, no nothing, and in the snow, and etc., etc. And whoever didn't manage, whoever would fall down, would just be shot on the spot. So my grandfather was the whole time with a very good friend of his. His name was Willy Laufer, and they were together in the concentration camp. And also Willy's wife was with my grandmother. I'll come to that later. So they were together the whole time, and they had to start the death march. And then Willy fell, and he said to my grandfather, he said, "Zion, let me be. I can't anymore." And my grandfather said, "No way. You have a wife. You have children. Get up, get up." He said, I can't get up. And my grandfather carried him. Now, my grandfather was also, I don't know, 30-something kilo and could not carry, but he carried him. At a certain point, there was an haftzatza, bombardment.
You're doing great.
Thank you. I needed to hear that. From by the Allies, and then everybody ran to all kinds of places. And my grandfather, he saw like a hut, and he ran to it to hide. And then when he was inside, the hut fell on him. And no matter where he tried to like dig or crawl out, he couldn't find how to get out. And then he said, "HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm making a deal with you. I want to get out of here. I want to see my wife. I want to see my children. You know I'm a silversmith and also a goldsmith. I'm making a deal with you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You let me out of here, and I'll be the one that when Mashiach comes and we build the Beis HaMikdash, I'm the one who's going to make all the kelim for the Beit HaMikdash." And Kanira HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, "Good deal, dude." And suddenly, my grandfather says, afterwards he said it was Eliyahu HaNavi, there is a Nazi who doesn't say a word in the hut where he didn't see anything, and he went like that. And my grandfather started digging out, and he came out, he looked to the left, he looked to the right, couldn't find this guy anywhere, but he was out. And he kept to his words, because that's how he was. So he made the Mashiach hasn't come yet, he's going to come today, I don't have a doubt about it. But in the meantime, the jewelry after the Shoah that he made was all connected to the Beit HaMikdash. So what I have here is a crown. I'll let it go by, the picture go by. By the way, this is my grandmother Frida, and this is my sister, she lives in Amsterdam. And this is my father, Zichrono Livracha. But look at the crown on my head. What did he do? He made a crown with pearls and gold, but the stones are the stones from the colors of the Choshen of the Kohen Gadol. In the middle, he had again the Luchot HaBrit with his name. Better idea. With his name and my grandmother's name. And this crown is being worn by every single bride in our family, which means that my aunts wore it, my mother, my cousins, my sisters.
You?
I did. Yeah.
Where is it now?
It's in the Bursa in Ramat Gan.
Wow.
Please God your daughters will be
בעזרת השם, אמן, לכל עם ישראל, לכל הרווקים וכל הרווקות, בעזרת השם במהרה. And also what I printed out is a brooch. Yeah, that he also made. This also brooch with also the alim from the
menorah on the side.
תודה רבה. And Tov, you can figure it out yourself. And the Keter Torah, and all the jewelry that he made was connected to that. And I want to tell something else about him. I don't remember. If I'll remember, then I'll let you know. So that was. רגע, הדבר הכי חשוב, כי זה מאוד 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 מדבר לימינו, and I want you please to remember in ספירת העומר, when when you get an app and another app and an email to remember that you have to count. This was his Sfirat HaOmer. It's very unclear, but it's there.
You can see something.
Sfirat HaOmer. But this is mamash sakanat nefashot, to have something that's on you, but it was so important for him, גם לתפילות, and also כאילו לקיים את המצוות עד כמה שאפשר. So this always reminds me, like now, I forgot. How can I forget if this was so important to him? So that was about Reb Metzion Moshkovitz. He died when my mother was 18. My mother is now 74. He got lung cancer because of the asbest. Is that the word?
Asbestos.
Yes, that he had to work with. So he died at a very young age. He is buried in Bnei Brak by Vizhnitz.
Did he ever come to Israel?
Oh yeah. He was like Hasidish, but Tzioni, like you have got no idea. And then when there was the Kuma Medina, he said to my grandma, I have to come. And he flew to Israel. And then my mother was born. And then he said, no more renaming. We have to have a new, fresh name. I was now in Israel, Tel Aviv. We're going to call her Aviva. And they called her Aviva. And then they went to write down the name in the Misrad HaPnim. And nobody had heard of the name Aviva. And you were only allowed to do names that were known. So they had to add Rachel and they had to add Yita to it. But I don't know where they'd heard Yita from, but Sababa.
Yiddish name that was known.
Yeah, in Holland. So my mother was like the fresh, מאוד ציוני. Okay, so that was about my grandfather. And now I'm going to my grandmother, Savta. אחלה אישה, באמת. Wow. I wish I would have known my grandfather also, אבל לא זכיתי. So she was, she came with 2 kids to Holland, and then she was pregnant from Chaya. Chaya was born in 42. And then she decided, for a long time, she could walk around in the streets while other Jews already had been put in a ghetto, because she had nationality that still was not in war with Germany. So she wasn't seen as a Jew. She was seen as I don't remember, sorry. I apologize. But at a certain point she also realized that it's getting very unsafe. So she decided, with 3 kids, she spoke to a neighbor, and the neighbor said, yes, of course I'm going to hide you, and you come to me, blah, 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 blah. And then one day they went into hiding by the neighbor. And in the evening, there was loud knocking on the door, and there were the Nazis who came to get my grandmother with 3 small kids. Because the neighbor, then you would get like 7.5 gulden, which is like, I don't know, 30 shekel per person if you would turn them in. So that's what she did. Probably. That's what she did. My grandmother met her after the war, and the only thing she said to her, I hope it was worth your money. She did. But she was also somebody who in the tram would say to a Nazi, I can't believe you're sitting down. Look, there's an elderly lady standing there. What would your mother say if you would behave like that? Get up now! That's how she would speak to the Nazis. Thank you very much. And they would get up and they would give the seats to an elderly lady.
The neighbor would do that, or your grandmother would do that?
I know that Simon Avon says that her grandmother was also like that. I think it's something Jewish women.
Something that Jewish
Yeah.
women.
Baduk.
Wait, do you do that?
I would, yeah.
Oh,
I haven't
good.
met Nazis yet, but I would. So they were taken also to Westerbork. My grandmother was there with 3 kids for 3 weeks, not for 1 week. Same doctor who kept her as a nurse. And then she was sent to Ravensbrück. Ravensbrück was a women's camp. And Nomi and Chaya went many years ago, I don't know, 25 years ago, they went to Ravensbrück for reunion. And then somebody said to Nomi and Chaya, oh, you came here in name of your mother? So they said, no, we were here ourselves also. So the woman goes, that can't be, because there were no children in Ravensbrück. It was only women. So they both go, Achoti, we were here. And Nomi has many stories that she can tell. Chaya was very little, she was a baby. so she can remember less, or she managed not to remember. That's something else. And there is a story that it was Christmas Eve, and the Nazis said to all the mothers, send your children to that and that, how do you say it, sorry?
Shed,
Hut, and barracks, all of the above. And then we're going to sing some songs, and then the kids will get some extra food. I don't have to explain to you, there was no food, so some extra food, even though it's a tiny piece of bread, of course you're going to send your child. So my grandmother was with Mrs. Laufer, a friend, plus 3 daughters. And my grandmother and Mrs. Laufer sent the 6 children. And then my grandmother was thinking to herself, Lo yoshev li tov, it doesn't sit well with me. For 2,000 years we have been persecuted in the name of Jesus, and now our Jewish kids are going to celebrate his birth, even though they get extra food. Passig nicht. We don't behave like that. So my grandmother went to the barrack, to the hut, and she tried to open the doors, but she didn't manage because everything was locked. In the end, she found a window. She, I don't know, either knocked or opened the window, and she said to her 3 kids, Nomi, Chaya, and Uriah, and also to the other three, Margreet, Gisela, and Bori. She said, out, we don't celebrate Christmas. And they go, Mom, come on, we just sang songs, and now we're getting out. I don't want you inside. We do not celebrate Christmas. And why did this lady say to my aunts there were no children in Buchenwald, in Ravensbrück? Because straight after my grandmother took them out, they lit the barrack, and all the children were burned, and those were the only 6 left. And my grandmother hid them. I don't know how she did that. I do not know how this woman Bichlal managed to do what she did, but she hid them, and that's how they survived. I don't know if any of you knows Ilana Fletcher. She's a granddaughter of them, and there's a lot of people who call their children and grandchildren after my grandparents because in many ways they saved them. I've written down some things. Okay. At the end of the war, everybody had to go back to where they came from, and my grandparents were both sent to Holland, but from different places, and mamash kilo, akol mishamayim, but mamash mishamayim. Somebody said to my grandfather, wait, your name is Moshkovitz? I heard that there is a Moshkovitz, and that's how they were reunited. First Uriel. Uriel passed away a few years ago from illness. He has 3 kids, many grandchildren, and many great-grandchildren. Nomi also Uriel, but also Nomi became also a gold and silversmith, and Nomi worked many years with my grandfather in the store in Amsterdam till she got married and came to Israel more than 50 years ago. Nomi lost her daughter, her son-in-law, and 3 kids by Sbaro, by the Pigua, and they both said, wow, we really thought that we had seen it all in the Shoah, both of them, and now this. And this was also what I was thinking today about Yom HaShoah. Suddenly Yom HaShoah became something totally different after the 7th of October. And Bemet, I also saw yesterday, I saw people being interviewed who were in the Shoah, and their grandchildren are murdered or in Gaza. פשוט לא נתפס. Nomi has been telling for more than 30 years already, I think, Yom HaShoah, she went to schools to talk. She was 10, 12 in the camps, and she says that also my grandmother was always everything was fine. The only thing she did not want is to end up in hospital, because in the camps, when you go to hospital, that's the end of you. Nomi once was sick. She had, tuberculosis or something like that, and she was put in the hospital in the camp, and she had to share her shelf with another lady, and she says the whole night, she was 12 then, the whole night they were fighting about this small piece of blanket because there were freezing, and then after a few hours, Naomi thought, oh, I haven't fought with her for a few hours. And then she looked, and it was because the lady was dead next to her. They also once lost their mother, and they couldn't find her, so they went through fields of bodies. They had to turn over bodies to find their mother. I remember when I told that, not so harsh, to one of my kids who was becoming bat mitzvah, she goes, well, how did she then celebrate her bat mitzvah in the concentration camp? So I asked her, and she said that my grandmother saved a button for her. She found a button somewhere, and that's what she got for her bat mitzvah. Chaya, who was a baby in the camps, she says on one hand she doesn't remember anything. She started to learn to walk in the concentration camp. On the other hand, she says that all her baby pictures, all her kindergarten pictures, is a child that always looks very, very, very angry. And when my grandmother passed away and they cleared out the house, she found all kinds of old pictures from, when she was young. She said when she saw the first picture from kindergarten, she said she got a migraine like she never had in her life. But she says the whole time, I don't remember anything. And for 2 years, she had a migraine non-stop. And afterwards, she went to pool and she realized that it's all kinds of things that, of course, she on purpose didn't remember, blah, 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 blah. And she lives in, also in Netanya. Oh, sorry. So Naomi had 4 children, still has 4 children, but there's 3 alive and many, many grandchildren and great-grandchildren, Baruch Hashem. And also Chaya lives also in Netanya, 3 daughters, many grandchildren. And what was the subject of this talk? Emunah, because Emunah was their strength. We are here today. No, seriously, we are here today, mamash, because of their Emunah, pshuta, kilo. This is it, and we're gonna get through it. And this is what they also passed on to the next generations. And many times, sometimes happens that I have difficult things going on, and I'm just thinking to myself, if Savta could do it, I can do it. That's it. Thank you very much for listening.
Danja.
It's for your grandparents.
Yeah.
It was your name.
Aviva? Yeah.
Danja.
Yeah.
Did your grandfather sing in the Obrecht Shul?
No, he was the chazan from the Lekstraat. The Obrecht was Bloemendaal.
Because on our wedding in '66 we had a choir.
Right.
The Obrecht Shul.
It could be that he was your chazan, I don't know, but he belonged to the Lekstraat.
He was a short fellow. He was not so tall.
Oh, actually I don't know him. I never met him.
He must have been short.
Don't you have pictures?
Mom, you have pictures.
I think I.
Show me a picture and I'll tell you.
Well.
Yeah,
Listen,
she's married already. Why save the pictures?
Listen, for 58 years, I didn't need this picture because there was no family.
Simcha is how?
Simcha is Moshe's daughter. Moshe and Aviva were both born after the war.
He was the cousin.
He's also a cousin. Yeah.
People that I didn't
just
see.
Yeah.
You my dad.
Yeah.
Tanya, can I ask you a question? First of all, thank you so much for sharing these stories and for bringing them to life for us. It means so much. I wanted to ask you if you have any advice. We're living through, like you said, making the connection now. Yom HaShoah means something completely different after October 7th compared to before October 7th. And we're living through a time as mothers, grandmothers, where we're trying to raise a generation of children amidst scary and hard. From the lessons that you hear about how your grandparents raised their children with the truth, but not too much truth that they would be traumatized, do you have any advice to share with us as mothers, grandparents, fathers, how we can relate to the next generation during troubling times?
Holy moly, I'm just Danja.
That's the secret of life.
But it's not something you can, put onto somebody else. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a plan. We don't know what his plan is. I once read that it's like rikma, how do you say? Embroidery. On the back, we only see the back, and it's all messy and knotted and longer threads and then when we come in the Olam HaEmet, we see the front, and then we only see, we don't understand because we don't see the whole picture.
Facebook, same thing.
Oh, Facebook is so fake.
It's the only what you should.
I don't know. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what he does, and sometimes it really hurts, but באמת הכל לטובה, even though we don't understand. We don't understand. And I don't know, I always try to tell my kids sorry for the word. I said, girls, shit happens. The only thing you can do is decide. אני עומדת בזה ככה, do I stand at it like this, or do I stand at it like that? And that's the only thing you can do, because things happen. And you have to decide how you stand in life, optimistic and I don't know, I'm just Danja, I don't know. Sorry.
You're more than just Danja to us. You are. I don't know if you all know Danja. Danja is a neighbor and a friend, and she's wonderful.
I paid her to say that.
Just wonderful.
I have holding up a flag. How long have you been with the ambulances? Exactly.
See, I didn't say that.
I know that you told. I remember one long
נו
time
די,
ago,
אתם ממש מביכים
you told
אותי.
me that your daughter was doing volunteering, and then you decided to start with that.
So I'm a tour guide, and when Corona started, I was really, 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 really bored. And my two daughters and my husband are in Mada, and they said, "Do it, do it, do it." And I said, "Really? I don't even want to touch an agala from the supermarket because I find it disgusting, or the kaspomat. How can I do Mada?" And they said, "No." I think they just want to get me out of the house. So I did the course, and then I said, I'm only doing the course. I'm not going into Mada. Mipo l'sham, from here to there. I'm totally hooked. I'm totally addicted. And then at least I had something to do in Corona time, and I wasn't driving everybody crazy at home. And then the war started, and then all my work got canceled again. And there is somebody who's called Matan Nefesh. He's amazing. He's the head of the Machleket Refuah of the Moatza, and he went straight away on the Shvil Asri in Miluim. And on the 8th, I thought, oh my gosh, I have nothing to do. So I said, okay, I'll take the ambulance. So I took the ambulance, and I've been doing that voluntarily for 6 months. And after 6 months, that everybody told me, you're crazy, אל תהיי פריירית. I'm now getting paid by the Moatza to do it. So זהו, נגמר הצדיקות שלי. וזהו.
נראה לי שנשאר עוד קצת צדיק.
I also paid her to say that.
It's good you're getting paid.
Yeah, exactly. I had to start paying off
I
people.
remember I was with you in a CPR course, and you told me that you only came to do it because your daughter was doing volunteering. And
Wow, that was so long ago.
It was.
נכון, about 9 years ago or something like that. Yeah, I still don't know how to do it, so don't die on me, please. Well, with this, yes. No, I didn't deliver. I was driving the ambulance, and I had a yoledet in the back, and thank God her husband is a paramedic, because she goes on the way to Ein Karem, and I think, okay, this sounds okay, and then she goes, and then while I'm driving, I hear, baby born. Yeah. Messy one. Yeah.
And your boo.
Amen.
כל הנסיעות שלך יהיו ללידות.
Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did any of your family members have their testimony recorded?
Yeah, Naomi and Chaya, also by Spielberg and also by Yad Vashem.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to watch the
Next question.
In your free time. You're not driving an
Because
ambulance.
I finally, after I think it's about 20 years since my grandfather, may rest in peace, his video was recorded by the HaShoah Foundation.
Right.
Spielberg. I finally watched. Someone uploaded. I got to watch it.
Yeah.
It was just unbelievable
Yeah.
to see firsthand
Yeah.
testimony.
Yeah. The stories that I have are from my grandmother and from my aunts and uncles. I got it from them. Not an excuse, right? One day, Bezrat Hashem, I'll watch it. Okay. Thank you very, very much, everybody.
Thank you so much.